We're going to get started. So tonight is my favorite meditation class. We're going to do question and answer. It's been a couple weeks since we did this. I will just start off by saying that I love it when you guys ask questions in class as well. And when I was practicing with Sifu Brown at the school in Michigan, every day somebody would ask a question about meditation or about like, Sifu, I'm having a hard time with forgiveness or with this or with that, like deeper problem. And I get that, like, you know, I don't seem like I have a lot of life experience. I'm young. This is why I grow out my beard stubble so that I look a little bit older. But I can also answer questions that you guys ask in the meditation class, in normal class. If there's something that's bugging you and you can't wait until a meditation class to ask it, you should ask it in regular class. Also, in this class, I love getting the questions about meditation, and you can also ask me about anything else. If there's something that I don't want to answer, and I don't think that it is appropriate for meditation class, I just won't answer it. I won't be shy, but don't feel like, well, this is a meditation class, so I'm going to ask only exactly related to meditation questions, like, you know, how do I sit? Like, you guys can ask me something else, and we'll go with it. So, and also, this is, again, not the answer. I don't have the answer. This is my answer. This is where I'm at right now. And if you ask me again in 30 years, it'll be a much better answer. But we're taping it now, so I'll make it as good as I can. Questions? Robin.
Sifu, have you struggled in your practice with your meditation routine and getting off track? And if you have, how do you get back on track?
Have I struggled with my meditation routine? Yes. And how do you get on track, back on track again? So, meditation, practicing meditation is a journey and a struggle in many ways. And some people say that, like, I just love meditating, it's so nice and calming, and absolutely it should be, and it can often be that way, and there is a challenging aspect to it. If there is no challenge to your meditation, you are absolutely daydreaming, like you're kidding yourself, and like literally you're not meditating, you're just daydreaming. So a part of the challenge is to get the discipline to actually sit every single day. And I'm a fan of sitting 2 times a day for a half an hour or more. And if you can't do that, sit for whatever you can. Start with sitting 1 time every single day. If you meditate at least once every single day for a long, long time, for a decent amount of time, let's say 20, 30 minutes at least, it will make a huge difference in your life. It will absolutely transform you as a human being. If you meditate once and then you don't meditate for a week and then you meditate again, it's going to have some effect, but not nearly as much. And there is, in some ways, like this compounding interest on the effect that it has on your life. So the more you meditate without skipping, the more of an effect it's going to have. And then you'll notice if you've gone a year without skipping and then you miss a day or two, you will start to feel like you're going insane. And that's a good thing. It means that you should keep meditating, because now you're starting to realize, oh my God, when I don't meditate, my mind, like I start to just lose it completely. So getting on the routine is very important. This is the first most important thing to get with your meditation practice is regularity. You got to be regular with your practice. I suggest that you put it into part of your schedule, part of your routine rather. So it's like every day I wake up and within the first couple of things that I do, I meditate. If I wash my face or I shave or whatever, I meditate. It's part of it. And I make sure that at the end of the day, before I go to bed, I have meditated for sure. And one of the things that you need to do in the beginning is just make it not an option. So a lot of people are like, yeah, I like the idea of meditating. I'll try that, and I'll do it sometimes. That's not going to work. You meditate every once in a while at best, and you'll eventually just completely fall off track. So make it mandatory. It's not an option. I do this. This is just part of my life. I absolutely do not miss a single day. And then when you miss a day, what happens is, just like when you're sitting and meditating and you go off track with your thoughts and you start to be off on this random train of thought, you recognize it, and then you're like, oh, I'm not meditating right now. I'm just sitting here wasting my time. I'm such an idiot. How come I'm so terrible at meditation? And I'm reading this wonderful book about meditation that I'm going to actually get for the dojo, and you guys should read it too. It's called The Mind Illuminated. And the author makes this really important point about when you are meditating and you find that you've gone off track, you recognize that. Most people, they create a negative association with that, and it's like recognizing that you're off track becomes this experience of, oh, I'm failing at meditation right now, when really you want it to be the opposite, because you want to recognize that you're off track and like reward yourself and just kind of settle back into the breath and enjoy it, right? So it should be the same thing when you're recognizing that you're off track with your meditation practice as a whole, with the regularity. Don't look at it and say, I failed, I missed a day, if only Sifu knew how terrible I was, because then you get this defeatist attitude and it's not going to make meditation fun for you. And I have definitely fallen into this trap for many years of my practice, and it's like all about, some of you guys know, I was raised Catholic, so I'm all about the guilt. And it's like I love when I miss, I don't miss days of meditation, but like when my meditation is shorter or it's not as good or whatever, I'm like all about guilting myself. Well, I just kind of took all that out of the equation and made it like I just meditate for an hour every single day, and it doesn't matter if it's good, bad, ugly. I just like do it, and you got to allow yourself to enjoy it and allow yourself to enjoy getting back on track. Make it something that you reward yourself for. And you could say, like, I don't know, for me growing up, it was always watching TV. To be honest, it still is watching TV. Like, I just love watching TV, but I got to get meditation done. If I don't get meditation done, I don't watch TV until I'm done meditating. Simple as that. So something, I know you probably don't watch that much TV, but something, I don't know, practicing form. I don't get to practice form until I meditate. Other question. Kevin. Stagnating.
Just from practice to life.
Mm-hmm. This is a plateau or a trough. Right? It feels like a trough, doesn't it?
I feel like I've dug myself in the ditch.
Yeah, you're in the ditch. How do you get out of the ditch? How do you get out of the rut? So, this is, practice does this just like anything else in life. It was really not practice, as we do this to ourselves, and we use practice as just another avenue to get in a rut. We love getting into ruts. We love to torture ourselves. And let's say that you're in a car and you're driving down, a muddy road, and you get to this part where the mud is dry, but it's got these ruts in it, and it's like these big kind of wells in the ground where your car is really stuck in it. And what happens is it is just so easy to keep going down in that same rut. And you're like, I'm in it now. I'm just in the rut. This is the way that it's going to be. I'm stuck. You try to get out by just turning the steering wheel a little bit, and your car just goes, nope, we're here. We're in the rut. And you're also just making the rut deeper. The more time you spend in it, that rut is not going to go away by itself. So how do you get out of the rut? You go like this. Ha! And your car is going to just bounce out. But it takes effort. It is so much easier to just stay in the rut. And it is so much more effort to finally get your wheel to bounce out and to crash through that wall of dried up mud and dirt. So, what do you do? How do you get out of it? I'll just give a few ideas and maybe some from my own experience. So first, I love to laugh at myself. I think it is important to laugh at yourself. You should look in the mirror every day and laugh at yourself. If you're not laughing at yourself, look, there's so many opportunities to laugh at yourself. You're just missing them. You're missing it. This is life. Laugh at yourself. So you look in the mirror, and it's like, you ever just actually look at yourself in the mirror, and it's like creepy. You actually make eye contact with yourself, and you're like, I know what I've been doing. Like, I've been just totally missing this. I've been just kidding myself. And you just laugh at yourself. And that's it. So take a good hard look and just laugh at whatever it has been that you're doing that is this rut that you've dug for yourself. The truth is, like, the patterns that we form with our actions, it becomes a deep part of us, and it does not take long for that to happen. And the way that the brain works, when you have certain thoughts, and those lead to actions, they become wired, they become hardwired almost in your mind, and it really takes something to get out of those habits of thought and action. So you guys have heard me talk about habits before, and it's kind of related to what I was talking about with Robin's question, but you can't make it something that is like, I get all upset about myself for doing. I've got to, there's this idea of, what is it called, a reward loop? And so there's this thing that triggers the action, and there's the action, and then there's the reward. And so you got to keep the reward, and you even keep the trigger, but you just change the action. So an example would be, let's say smoke. I have smoked a cigarette in my life, and I hated it, so I don't smoke. But let's just pretend that I smoked. So everybody starts heading out for their break to go smoke. I see them, that's my trigger. I go out and I smoke, and then the reward that I get is, the feeling of smoking. I get the camaraderie of being in this group of people who smoke, and it's like all of this is just kind of it's what's it called when you? It's reinforcing it. Thank you. So it's reinforcing this, right? And so what you got to do is just change that smoking for something else. Chew a piece of gum or something. Go out and do 10 push-ups. I don't know. And you got to keep the reward. The reward is the good feeling that you get from it. You have to allow yourself to feel that. You have to even allow yourself to, have that social connection and whatever it is there is to it. And then that's going to feed back into this reward loop, and then all of a sudden now you're doing stuff that you want to do, stuff that is healthy and good for you, and that becomes reinforced over and over. So to get out of a rut can be just reforming your habits, and it is oftentimes like, it's going to seem like a lot of effort, like just really turning that steering wheel hard in another direction. Another thing that you have to do is seek out inspiration. You got to get inspiration. There's this story that I tell every once in a while. I actually told it in my Black Sash test, and I changed it a little bit, but I'll just tell the original version of it. There's a man who's struggling with life, and he's just like, has not been showing up to church, and so he's invited to come talk by the priest, and the priest is listening to him, and this guy is giving him all the excuses. You know the excuses, Kevin. So the excuses are, my dog got sick, I got married, I had a baby, like all this stuff happened in my life, and it's like, time just kind of got away from me, and that's it. And so the priest, while he's listening to him, they're sitting by a fire, and he takes one of the coals, one of the embers from the fire, and he sets it over here. He's not using his hands, he's using like fire tongs or something, and he sets it over on a plate, and they're still listening. And the guy finishes going through all of his excuses and all of his complaining, and the priest said, I got it. Look at this coal over here. And the coal is just dead cold, absolutely no light, no fire left in it. And he says, look at these that are still in the fire, and they're all still glowing, and it's not like he's been stoking the fire or blowing into it. It's just like, this is the fire, and it just goes. And he makes the point that this was you when you were coming. This was you when you were getting this inspiration, and you were, a regular part of the community and all of that. And then this is you now. You're dead and cold, and there's no life left, right? And like, this coal didn't even do anything different than these coals. It just sat there, but just being in the environment. And you know this like as well as I know it. if you're in it, you're in the environment, and you're constantly getting fed this inspiration, it's easy. It's easy to keep, well, it's easier to keep going and to keep, taking the kind of actions in life and to have the kind of habits that we want. And it is so hard when you're by yourself, sitting there alone on that plate with nothing feeding you. Your fire goes out. And this is just a truth. You've got to get inspiration from something. And I find that getting it from a group of people is great. That's why the dojo is so powerful and so helpful. So get to class, and it's as simple as that. But also, what are you reading? What are you listening to? Even what are you watching? What are you putting into your brain? And all of this, the people who you're surrounding yourself with are either going to be inspiring you and bringing you up and empowering you, or they're going to be dragging you down. And you have people in your life, all of you have people in your life who are saying things to you when you go to practice at the dojo, like, why are you going to the dojo right now? Stay here and be depressed with me. Why are you always going doing that? Like, we're supposed to be drinking tonight, and whatever iteration that takes. So I'm not saying that you have to disown those people, although it might not be a bad idea. But the more time that you spend, in a place like the dojo or in an environment that is really empowering you, the better. So to get out of the rut, and I get it, the rut is like the thing that's taking you away from practice and makes it difficult to do it, but you just kind of have to just steer hard and get back into it, adjust course and get back into the swing of things, and then it'll become easier. But there's that first period of time is hard. It's that hard turn of the steering wheel, and you'll either make it out or you won't, and then you're just back in the same rut, and then you can ask yourself in another couple months, is it time now? Am I going to turn it even harder? Maybe. Yeah, but I like having you in class, so get back in here. Other question. Yes, ma'am. Ooh. How do you cope with losing a loved one? This will be my last question and answer of the night. We'll end on a high note. So I've been pretty lucky. I've had most of the people who I've had in my life for my life are still with me. And I've had relationships start and end and friendships that I've lost, but it's not the same as losing somebody who dies. And so a couple years ago, my grandpa died, and I was pretty close with my grandpa, my dad's dad. We'd travel all the time together. We would play pinochle. For those of you guys who don't know what pinochle is, it's a real card game. It's like those of you guys that play, what's the other version? Hearts or spades? Yeah, it's better than that. But and my grandpa was like a great man, deep philosophical. I would ask him great questions and get great answers, and I miss him. And there was, after we buried my grandpa, in the act, in the interment. What is it called when you bury somebody? When we're putting the dirt on the grave, the funeral. during the funeral, it's sad. Like, I'm crying and we're all crying, and then it was kind of like a little bit out of sight, out of mind until it came to Christmas, which is when we always spend time together. And we went to a house in Florida where we always go and spend Christmas, and it's like my grandpa's not there. And then it hit me, and it was sad. And to finally not have somebody that you've had in your life and is jarring, even if, like, we knew that my grandpa was on his way out for a while, for years, battle with cancer, and it was rough. But when you have an experience like this, in my experience, I'll just say, because it hits everybody differently, but you kind of have choices to make. Some people, and this is the way that I used to be with many things in life, is just like, ignore it. And it's kind of like repression. It's just like, it's not like I don't know that it happened, but it's just like don't really spend any time thinking about it. It's just almost like it didn't happen. I know in the back of my head that it happened, but just don't really deal with it. The problem with that is it kind of lingers for a long time and it has these negative effects on you. So I don't recommend doing that. The other option is just to be with it and deal with it, and like to come at loss with a sense of acceptance and to really allow yourself to feel the emotions that are associated with it. And then some people, like I've had this experience too, where it's like somebody dies and I think, I know I'm supposed to feel really bad about this, but I don't really feel that bad about it. And I loved this person, you know, they were a meaningful part of my life, but it's not hitting me like that. And so then you kind of like make yourself wrong for like not being depressed enough, and it's like I'm a bad person for not feeling terrible about this. It's just whatever it is, you know, allow yourself to feel the way that you feel and accept it. And from that place of acceptance, you can move forward. And moving forward might be, you know, like I feel like I need to talk to more people about this person's life. Or it might be like, you know what, I've been really upset and sad and just like in bed for days, and I'm done with it. It doesn't mean that I didn't appreciate this person's life. It just means that I'm choosing that the effect that I want this person's passing to have on me is not going to be that negative. It's going to be like, you know, if my grandpa saw me in bed depressed for weeks, it's not like he'd feel good about that. You know, the person is dead. They don't want to look back at you and say, yeah, that makes me feel better about dying. Like all these people are depressed and feel terrible about it. Like nobody wants that. So at some point you just come to another point where you decide, I'm done feeling that way. I'm done, acting in this way, being in this rut of emotion, and I'm just going to, choose to steer out of it. And it's very difficult because emotions are super powerful, and they're supposed to be that way. It's nobody just like goes from having really powerful emotions to just like, yeah, I'm done. I mean, it takes something to get beyond it. And in my experience, it's just like allowing yourself to fully feel the way that you feel, and to not, second guess or beat yourself up for the way that you're experiencing it and the way that you're, responding to this thing. And then keep checking in on yourself and just ask, like, is this healthy? Is this the way that I want to be? Or am I just way down in a place that I don't really need to be anymore? This isn't doing anybody justice. And sometimes you need to get professional help. Sometimes you need to talk to somebody that you just know is great at pulling you out of a state like that. Sometimes you need to work out, get in the dojo and just punch somebody or something. And I think the important thing to recognize is there is no right way. We see what happens in movies, or we listen to advice, or we know people that we think of as being all over it, and this is the way that they dealt with it. The way that you're feeling and the way that you deal with it is exactly the way that you're supposed to. Okay, be with it, accept it, and then when you're ready, move on. And moving on does not mean my grandpa never existed. It means that I'll think about my grandpa, and sometimes I'll be sad that he's not here, and sometimes I'll just be happy about the times that we spent together. And I just do it in a way that is empowering to me. I look back on the people that I've lost, and I let them have the kind of impact on me that I think that they would have wanted to have. I don't think my grandpa would have wanted me to be angry or depressed or sad about him dying. I think he would have been happy with me, thinking about the conversations that we had and the good kind of impact that he had on my life. And some of that just comes back to the kind of thinking and focus that we practice in meditation. Because emotions are strong. They have, a will of their own, really, and they suck you into that state. So it's very important to be able to recognize them when they're coming up early and decide, yeah, I'm going to allow myself to experience this emotion. I want to experience this right now. Or decide, I'm in line at the grocery store. It's not time for me to start crying right now. I'll do that when I get home, Or I've dealt with this. It's okay. So when you sit and meditate, you'll start to recognize that your mind has wandered, and then you bring it back to the breath. And this is really a mental exercise. This is an exercise in greater focus and greater awareness and recognizing when you're off track and you want to bring it back as soon as possible. And earlier on in our practice, it takes a while before we actually recognize that we're off track. And then we bring it back. And as you progress in your practice and you get better focus, better awareness, you'll start to recognize it earlier and earlier. And it's like I'll just start to head down that road and start to get sucked into the rut or sucked into that emotion, and then I'll just immediately bring myself back. And so meditation is a key to this because it helps us stay in the moment. It helps us stay focused. And I mean actually meditating can have a healing quality to it. And I also mean that just training your mind to be able to do this, to be able to think the way that you want it to think, and to be able to have the thoughts that send you into the kinds of emotional states that you want to have, that's all part of what we're doing in meditation. And if you find yourself sitting in meditation and having these strong emotions, it's not quite what we're looking for. Don't make it wrong. Just allow it, accept it, and then come back to the moment. And same thing when it's happening in life, outside of meditation. It's not like it's, has to be wrong and you have to beat yourself up about it. Just recognize it, and the earlier you recognize it, the better. Choose, I want to feel that, or choose, I want to feel something else, and that's it. That's really what meditation is for us on some level, is just a greater ability to choose what the thoughts and the emotions that we want to have are, and to keep ourselves on that track. So we're going to practice that tonight. Sit comfortably.